Welcome. I'm Jessica Tietjen, and this is the Evolving to Exceptional podcast, where we talk about reaching peak performance in our workplaces, homes, and communities so that we can live our best life possible, an exceptional life. What do you need to feel safe right now? It's such a simple question, but it can have a really profound impact when we use it with intention. Maybe you felt it. Have you felt the shift? The world has shifted in a significant way, and it's seriously impacting a lot of people. Whether you agree with the direction or not, it's undeniable that the changes taking place will forever alter our futures, for better or worse. Amidst such turbulent and trying times as humans, we tend to revert back to our survival states. Our primal need for self-preservation that lives in our gut intelligence surfaces with strategies to suppress and suspend actions that might put us at risk. Our need for survival supersedes all our intellect and emotion to protect us as a species. Our guts are the first neural connections to form when we are conceived in the womb. They start assimilating and processing the world long before our head brain even exists, let alone can make sense of it. This first intelligence is incredibly effective and efficient at detecting risk and shifting our actions or inaction in response. If you spread them out, all of our gut intelligences, all of that, they are as big as a tennis court. Imagine all the information and data your gut intelligence is processing every day, all day, automatically and totally unconsciously. When our gut intelligence senses our safety or self-preservation is at risk, it triggers our autonomic nervous system to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn state, and maybe multiple different states on different days or situations. Which state it selects is determined by our past patterns and experiences. They shape our safety response based on what has worked best in our past at protecting us. If our fight response is triggered, we start looking for ways to fight back, resist, and overcome the risk that has arisen in front of us. You might be feeling angry, aggressive, and more assertive than usual. You might feel compelled to take action to fight or argue with those who express messages with which you disagree. You might be motivated to protest, challenge authority, pursue litigation, refuse to comply, or even be physically resistant. If our flight response is triggered, we start looking for ways to run away, to hide, and move away from the risk that has arisen in front of us. You might be exploring how to leave your location, physically or mentally, where you can hide if things get worse, or avoiding those with different points of view altogether. You might be trying to avoid interaction with the government, disengaging from public life, changing your behaviors to stay under the radar, or even leaving your home. If our freeze response is triggered, we start looking for ways to numb, shut down, disconnect, and disassociate from the risk that has arisen in front of us. You might be feeling frozen, unable to take action, and unsure what to do other than to disconnect and disappear. You may be numbing yourself with substances, food, shopping, or other addictions. You may find yourself procrastinating, avoiding information, and withdrawing socially. If our fawn response is triggered, we start looking for how to fix it by people-pleasing to reduce the risk that has risen in front of us. You might be trying to appease and please in order to avoid blame or shame. You might engage in compliance and conformity by trying to abide by all the rules, censor yourself, agree with authority figures, and avoid criticism and activism. You might try to seek favor from those in power or undermine those who might stand against. You may allow yourself to prioritize survival over even your integrity and values. Why is this a problem? Our systems are triggering traumas and stress that shift our bodies into states of survival. But the situations triggering trauma and stress are not immediately life-threatening. We aren't literally at war or running away from a predator. Instead, the threats are more nuanced and subtle than an overt threat to our safety. They are the threats of what could be rather than what is in the present moment. Despite the delay, our reaction to the risk is the same. Once these survival states have been triggered, our bodies are in survival we are cut off from many of our neural connections. Rather than making conscious, coherent, and wise decisions, we are operating from this state of survival. When we are trying to survive, we aren't considering whether we are thriving, which means we aren't truly being the best humans we can be. Our survival states serve an important purpose, but if we get stuck in them, it will cause us to act and make decisions unwisely. While fighting back against wrongdoing, immoral, and unethical behavior is entirely appropriate, we must make sure we do it in the wisest way possible. Rather than do so from a place of anger and stuck in our survival response, we want to bring all our brains back online so that we can confirm our actions and decisions are the right thing to do. What can we do right now with so many people being impacted? Well, we start by helping ourselves. How do we do it? How do we help ourselves? First and foremost, it's important to know when our nervous system is dysregulated. How can you identify if your nervous system is imbalanced? You can monitor your heart rate variability to identify when your system is in a stress state. You can take a quiz. We have one that we provide or that I use through the NeuroFit app that will give you a current state and what steps to take. Or you can just check in. Do you feel calm, conscious, and coherent? Or do you feel stressed and anxious or shut down and numb? Second, we need to know how to regulate our nervous system to bring it back into balance and out of survival, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's critical that we do so before we make any major decisions or react to others who might trigger us to react in a way that would be unproductive and unhelpful to our primary purpose. How can you regulate your nervous system? The first option is free and easy. It's balanced breathing. Even breaths in and out for 6 seconds each for 2.5 minutes to bring your system back into balance. The second option is to engage in different somatic practices, to utilize an app like the NeuroFit app that allows you to identify your current state and gives you the best practice to shift your nervous system into a more ideal state. Finally, once in a balanced and regulated state, we can connect with our multiple intelligences and bring them into their highest functioning state. When our head brain is at its best, it's creative. When our heart brain is at its best, it's compassionate. And when our gut brain is at its best, it's courageous. Ask yourself, what is the most compassionate, creative, and courageous decision or action for me to take right now? How do we help others? Well, it starts by recognizing and acknowledging. It's important to recognize and acknowledge that many people are stuck in survival right now. Leaders in particular must be conscious and considerate of those who are impacted directly. When we try to move on as if nothing has changed, those who feel the weight the most are left to carry it alone. As a result, they will remain stuck in survival, negatively impacting their performance, lives, interactions, and results. It's not hard to acknowledge that people are struggling and recognize the impact of the current climate on people's lives. To simply state that you see and hear them and will do your best to be supportive and respectful. The second thing we can do is to witness with compassion. Even better, we acknowledge those who are struggling and meet them with compassion. When we do this, we can help to support them to shift out of survival. As I've coached people recently, it became apparent the impact that people are experiencing, both positive and negative. While people are afraid and triggered, they're also experiencing connection and support from like-minded individuals. When we are witnessed in our struggle and met with compassion, it allows us to process our experience and move it through our bodies. Rather than leaving that stuck stress in the body, we are able to move it through us. And it's important to call out witnessed and met with compassion. Because compassion is not sympathy or empathy. Compassion is empathy in action. It means that the individual who is witnessing us is actively engaging in expressing empathy for our situation and holding space for us to process and release it. You can't fake compassion. You either are doing it effectively or you aren't. There is no in between. Not everyone has the skill set or the capacity to be able to offer this effectively. But people need this witnessing with compassion now more than ever. And the more who can develop the capability and capacity to offer it, the better. The third thing we can do is to identify needs. If you can't offer compassionate witnessing, then maybe you could consider asking, what do you need to feel safe right now? Our gut intelligence will have wisdom for us of what we most need to do to feel safe enough to take actions or make wise decisions. Consider asking, what do you need to feel safe at work right now? What do you need to feel safe at home right now? What do you need to feel safe in this relationship? What do you need to feel safe to speak freely? What do you need to feel safe to show up as yourself? What do you just need to feel safe? I want you to take a moment now and do some reflecting. And here's what I want you to do, especially if you're struggling. I want you to put your hand on your belly, on your gut brain, and ask, what do I deeply need to feel safe right now? Notice what comes up. Do you feel sensations? Maybe you burp. Maybe there's gurgling. Does your throat get scratchy? Do you choke up? What image do you see? What color, what sound or taste do you notice? You might be surprised by the wisdom your gut has to offer you right now. Once you've done this for yourself, it'll be easier to then ask the question of others, to offer the same supportive question that demonstrates your compassion. In the current climate of chaos and conflict, we can begin to feel confused as to what is truly happening, how serious it really is, and what it means to us specifically. Well, we can't know the future or have all the answers for what to do to make it better. We can access our inner wisdom to guide us. Here is my question to you, my dear listener. What do you need to feel safe right now? What can I do to help you feel safe right now? No matter how small or inconsequential it may seem, I am willing to take action if it means helping someone else feel a little safer in an otherwise very scary world. I choose to be the shelter in the storm. I choose to be compassionate in the face of cruelty. I choose to be acting rather than reacting. I choose to be creative in the face of crazy challenges. I choose to be thriving rather than just surviving. I choose to be courageous in the face of chaos. I choose to be the light in the night. I choose to be me, no matter what you may think, because the true me is exactly who I want to be. And the real question is, who will you choose to be? Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode, and we'll be back again next week with another.